Hello, my name is George Roubicek. I've been a professional actor, professional writer for a good many years. I can't actually remember how many, but it's a lot of years. And I hope you enjoy this quick resume. Thank you.
George, it's lovely to see you today. Thank you for inviting me into your home.
Pleasure.
We're going to start with the What Happened To series. So let's start with question number 1. What was your full name given at birth?
Georg Karl Roubicek.
When is your birthday and the year of your birth?
25th of May, 1935.
As a child, where were you born and raised?
Well, I was born as a child, as you put it. I was born in Vienna. I was raised in largely in Australia. I was 3 when we went to Australia, and that's where I was raised.
If any, how many brothers or sisters did you have growing up?
2 brothers.
And where did you sit in the hierarchy of ages?
I'm in the middle.
You were in the middle. Great. What is your earliest memory of going to the cinema or the theatre?
I remember the cinema incredibly well. It was to see a film with, don't remember the name of it, but it was a film with Mowgli. It was a Mowgli film.
Jungle Book.
Jungle Book, which my parents thought would be suitable, but which was as scary as all hell. I remember there was a cobra in that film, which I will remember till my dying day. It was really scary.
Growing up, did you have a favourite actor or actress whose work you really admired?
Whose work I really loved. She made very few films. She was in Harvey. Her name was Peggy Dow. And she married, I think she married an American football player, and saw through the business very, very quickly, and said, "I'm not having this. I'm going to Midwest America and marry an oil millionaire," and that's what she did, and had I don't know how many kids, and lived happily ever after, for all I know. But I thought she was not wonderful, but beautiful.
So there's a twinkle in your eye, so I take it wasn't for her acting ability, but it was for her looks, was it, George?
Oh, look, I would never say that to her. I mean, that's so unkind. It was for her looks.
Perfect. Was there an actual event or trigger that first prompted you to seriously consider acting as a child? And how old do you think you were?
As a child, never. It was all done around me. I had an English master at school, as an awful lot of actors did have. And he prompted me all the way. I mean, I don't know how many plays with him, but he liked what I did, and he thought I was capable. I was less than a child I was still a child, but I was in my teens by that time. And I'd certainly never considered, my mother was a doctor, and so it was taken for granted that I would be a doctor, although I didn't much care for the sight of blood. So in that sense, it came to me fairly late. Now I shudder to think what I missed out on.
And did you ever attend a stage school or formally train to be an actor anywhere?
I went to RADA.
Fantastic. Either before you began your acting career, or maybe during some downtime throughout your career, what non-acting jobs have you ever done?
Well, my first introduction to Shakespeare was mending Shakespeare Road in Finchley. In one of the school holidays, I had nothing to do and I had no money, and I got a job with whatever borough council it was, and they sent me out to mend this road with a team of road menders, and it was Shakespeare Road, and I thought, oh God, there's got to be something in this somewhere, and I've never forgotten it. So I mended Shakespeare Road. Before I left school, I worked in Woolworths. In Australia, I had a wonderful job delivering newspapers with a car. In Australia, in Toowoomba, where I lived in Australia, we didn't do it by bike or by. I had a little truck, a little lorry, a little truck. And I used to drive around throwing these newspapers over people's fences, and if I was clever enough and good enough at throwing, it landed in more or less the same place every day, and they loved that. And if I didn't land it in the same place every day, they phoned up the distributor very, very quickly and said I'd screwed up.
So going back to your acting career, what was your very first paid acting performance, i.e. your professional debut? And again, how old were you?
First professional was not, I didn't get paid for anything until I arrived in England. And it was during a holiday, a RADA holiday. Don't ask me what it was, I can't remember. I don't know. But it was during one of the RADA holidays. I stood in for somebody who, she'd missed the train. She'd missed the train to Bromley. I was working as an ASM in Bromley at the time, Bromley rep at the time. And she missed the train. And she missed the train. That's important, because they had nobody in the company who could do it apart from me as the assistant stage manager. And so they dressed me in a long coat, hoping nobody would notice. It was a matinee. And I went on for this woman clutching a book and got a round of applause. That was my debut.
Fantastic. A little bit of a fun one now, George.
What even the others have been.
Can you remember how old you were, or what production you were working on, when someone first asked you for an autograph?
Yeah. A play called Richard of Bordeaux, and very much an amateur show. I was still at school, and it was directed by this English teacher called Bluey White. Get the joke? And he was a great influence on my career. And he put on this quite extraordinary performance for a school play. I mean, he got all the John Gielgud had done the play in London, and he got all photographs of Gielgud in all the costumes, and he researched what Gielgud had done in various moments of the play, and we didn't try to copy them because that was, it was pointless and rather insulting. But he took certain elements of that production and copied them, and that was interesting. I didn't know what it meant at the time. I didn't know. I shudder to think I didn't know who Gielgud was. But anyway, it went on from there.
And talk to me about someone asking you for an autograph there then.
It was one of the few times I was asked by a girl. I'm always asked for autographs by men. I'm ashamed to say. And she picked me up as we left the stage door of Toowoomba Town Hall, where we'd done the production, and asked me for an autograph, which I gave her, but I didn't know what in God's name she was on about. What, why? What was all this about? It's happened to me a few times since then.
And did you practice your autograph as you started your career?
It never occurred to me that anybody... I had to change my signature because I had which I'm not going to tell you, of course, but I had a particular signature, and now I just write my name. It's very different.
At any point in your life or your career, have you ever been starstruck when meeting someone famous?
Oh, lots of times.
And have you ever asked anyone for an autograph?
Not that I recall, although I have got one autograph. It's the only autograph I've got, and it's that of Tennessee Williams, who came to see a play I was in called Period of Adjustment, and which we did in, I can't remember. But he liked it, and he came back afterwards and talked to us. Quite a small cast, and talked to us. And yeah, I did, and I've still got it framed. But that's the only autograph I've ever.
Fantastic. And you mentioned that you have been starstruck by meeting certain famous people. Can you recall any?
Peggy Dow. Although I've never met her. Olivier, starstruck by Olivier, yeah. Although he didn't employ me, damn it. I was starstruck by Gielgud. Employment never came up, so I never worked with him. Certain film stars. I don't know. Yeah, I'm permanently starstruck. That's no big deal.
So you mentioned there the autograph of Tennessee Williams, but other than that, have you collected any memorabilia offset of any of the productions that you've worked on?
No.
Or not that you're going to tell me?
You just go ahead and draw your own conclusions.
To perform in, what would you choose? Theatre, television, cinema, or radio even? And what reasons would you give for your answer?
That is a non-question, and the reasons for my answer is that it's such fun. It's such fun. It's hard work, and it's difficult work, and I'm not sure that I was ever any good at it, but it's fun. That's the reason.
So that would be theatre, one would assume?
Yeah. when you get booed, yeah.
So, maybe not the ones where you were booed for, but which of your...
Not ones, just one. Just one.
Which of your parts, performances or characters would you say people remember you for the most?
They don't remember me at all. Nobody remembers me.
All right, take a more introspective view now. Whether it be for what you did on stage or screen, can you name any of your own individual performance or performances that you are personally the most proudest of or found the most rewarding?
No. I was a jobbing actor. It's just not the sort of thing I was proud of. I was quite good in some few things of all the jobs I've had. There are only a couple that I really remember with pleasure. All the rest I wasn't very good at.
So those two being?
I'm not going to tell you that. Other people might disagree. In fact, they're bound to.
So the question, George, was from an introspective perspective. So regardless what others thought, I'm interested to get your view. So what was that production that you was very proud of?
I don't know about proud, but I did enjoy Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. There were only 4 of us in the cast, and we just gelled like jelly. I did a production in Australia of Richard II. I didn't play Richard, I played O'Merle, which is a relatively minor part, relatively. But I've never forgotten, it was years ago, and I've never forgotten it. It was fun to do, and I had a very good director, a guy by the name of Ray Menmuir. And it's just one I remember with great pleasure.
Fantastic. Now, I'm sure one has gone to lots of auditions over your career, but was there one particular audition that you attended that you really wanted the part, but for whatever reason you didn't get?
Yeah. It was very early. It's very early in my alleged career. I'd just been in West End play, can't remember the name of it.
Tea and Sympathy?
Tea and Sympathy, thank you. And I was asked to audition for a part in another play, which I've also forgotten. Anyway, I didn't get it, and I was devastated. I thought my world, not only my career, but my world was over. How dare they not give it to me? I've forgotten who played it in the end. He was very good. I've forgotten. And also I auditioned for Olivier to join the National Theatre, and I didn't get that. I was pretty devastated about that.
Talk to me about that experience, because I understand Olivier was very prominent during the audition process for getting into the company. So what interactions did you have with him?
Well, I chose the wrong piece for a start. I remember, in retrospect, not something that he'd played, but something that he might well have played. And he said, "Oh, thank you very much. It was very good of you to come in." Never heard another word. Well, I did hear another word via my agent. Thanks, but no thanks.
Right.
Yeah.
So talking about auditions and turning down parts, now this may be because of other work commitments and maybe conflicts in your schedule.
Yeah, I was very good at making the wrong choices. Throughout my career, I made one wrong choice after another. If there was a conflict.
Right, so there might be one that stands out to you to this very day.
Yeah.
Was there one significant part that you turned down for whatever reason, and again regretted that decision?
Not one, but 2 dozen. No, that was my real talent as an actor, was making wrong choices. I've always been excellent at that.
George, can you name a co-star that you liked working with the most, and maybe some that you had a tougher time with, namely those you didn't like?
I liked most of the people I worked with.
So
most of the people I worked with, when I worked with them, they were consummate professionals. The ones I had a tougher time with, it wasn't a question of liking them or disliking them. They were the one I'm thinking of in particular was very demanding, and quite right too. And I found it quite difficult to work with him, but that was my lack, not his. Nothing to do with he was just demanding, and I wasn't coming up to scratch. And that was kind of difficult over about 3 days filming. It was 3 days. I remember them. I remember them very precisely. Most of them were so good at all the big boys that I worked with were so good at their craft, and I never there was never a Peggy Down moment with any of them.
Having worked with so many distinguished directors, I won't ask you who your favourite was or is. I'll ask it in a slightly different way. What does a director need to do to draw out the best performance from George Roubicek?
He has to con me into believing that what I'm doing is pretty good. I say pretty good. What I'm doing is acceptable. I work with directors who made a point of demonstrating that what I was doing, and I don't take this personally in retrospect, because they were doing it to everybody. What I was doing was really not quite acceptable. Wasn't doing them. It was always film work where this turned up, and I wasn't. What I was doing was not great, and that makes an actor very insecure. And I spent a lot of my career being very insecure.
I mean, of the directors that you have worked with, are there any that you want to name that stand out?
Yeah,
that you really enjoyed working with?
I worked with a German director called Eberhard Fechner. You've never heard of him. He's unlikely to be in your little black book. but he was such a good director, and he produced some very, very fine films. None of them have ever made the grade in the English-speaking world, but he was German and he made German films. He was a lovely man. English directors, yeah, they were all right. I never had anything big enough to make a difference to their films. They always had more positive problems than me, and they just let me get on with it.
Now, it does not need to be any you've starred in yourself, but can you name maybe 3 must-see films that you would tell everybody that they must see in their lifetime?
No, I don't know about that, but I can tell you, if I can remember them, Citizen Kane, no doubt about that. I know it's a cliche. Everybody says Citizen Kane. Well, I'm saying Citizen Kane as well. I loved a film called Charade, or Charade if you're American, with Audrey Hepburn and
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant, thank you, Cary Grant, and everybody else in sight. Character actors galore, and a tight script and good music and lots of murder, and it was just a fun film, brilliantly put together. Yeah, that's number 2. I've got a third one. The third one, which has stayed with me for years. Various scenes in it have stayed with me, and the whole idea of the film has stayed with me, and that was Paths of Glory.
With Kirk Douglas. With Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas, yeah. Who I would not, if you'd say who's your favourite actor, he wouldn't have been in my list of top 25, but he was excellent in this, and the sport was excellent, but the direction and the everything about the film was glorious. And by a director you've never heard of called Stanley Kubrick, Paths of Glory, which I thought was, in terms of scripting, in terms of acting, editing was scarily well done. They're my 3.
I always ask this of actors who've had such a long career. When you watch a film, are you able to just simply sit back and enjoy the film? Or are you critiquing, looking at the lighting, staging?
Not critiquing unless it's... See, if the acting is too good, that makes for a less good film. If the lighting is too obtrusive, what's her name, Joan Crawford, for example, it makes for a less good film. But the 3 I've named, I don't think any of the 3 fall into the spoiled category. And I remember all of them with a shudder of brilliance.
Now here's another left field one for you, George. You're hosting an intimate dinner party.
No.
And you can invite anybody to come along.
Oh, God.
Dead or alive, in the profession, outside of the profession, which 3 people would you invite and why?
Well, it would probably be a disaster, but I would invite Mozart. He'd probably just shit all over the floor, but I would invite him. And I would invite well, I'm ashamed to say it, and I hope he would turn me down and not come. But Shakespeare would be there, and Rembrandt. Every time I look at a Rembrandt portrait, I shudder with pleasure.
3 fantastic names. Tell us something about you or your career that one would not know. Do you have any hobbies, pastimes, an interest in sports?
Oh yeah, interest in sport. I can go with that. I used to play quite a long time ago, but I used to play cricket and tennis and rugby. Well, I'm Australian after all. Let's not forget that. You had forgotten that, hadn't you? Yeah. Well, I am, and proud of it. No, that's nonsense. I'm not proud of it at all. I just am Australian. I like women, and I'm married. I'm married to the best of one. I was lucky.
You've enjoyed such a long career. When you do look back over the career that you've had, what are your overarching memories about your career?
They're nearly all of failure. No. I wish I'd done something differently. Not even better necessarily, just differently. I've met some interesting people.
So let's rewind, George, to that young actor leaving RADA. What would you have told that young George Roubicek leaving RADA? How would you advise him to lead his acting career from that point on after leaving RADA?
How do I advise him? I would have followed my mother's advice, which was be a doctor. Don't be an actor, be a doctor.
Why didn't you listen to her, George?
Huh? I don't know. I suppose, the grease paint, the footlights. I don't know why I didn't listen to her. I had this scholarship to RADA, and I thought, oh God. I tell you what, yes, I can tell you. Round about the time I was offered this scholarship, there was a picture in one of the Australian papers of Jackie Collins, not what's her name Collins, but Jackie Collins. And I thought, cool, that's for me, I thought. I apologise to her now. So I better go in for that. And that was my motivation. I mean, I had no desire particularly to tread the boards, but I would like to have met Jackie Collins, and I never did.
So bringing us up to the present day, George, finish the sentence. What happened to the actor George Roubicek?
he stopped acting, or people stopped asking him, and he became a writer, which he could do without anybody getting in the way. And I worked a lot with a really brilliant man, Michael Bakewell, which was one of the great pleasures of my alleged career. Michael was a fine director. I did a lot of work with Michael on adaptations of foreign films, and I really loved working with him. He's a modest, brilliant man. When I say modest, I don't mean that in any sense. I'm not patronizing him in any way at all, but he was a brilliant man, and he knew how to handle actors in a way which I never mastered.
So how do you occupy yourself today, George?
Wheeling from one room to another, which is really good. The grandkids, cliche, they're lovely. I can't read a lot because I can't see well enough, which I miss. I miss reading. I mean, I'm not blind or anything like that, but I don't see well enough to read. I spend a lot of time thinking about the past. God, that sounds so negative. And it's not meant to be. I get a lot of... My brother died a couple of weeks ago. He was 8 years younger than I was when he died. I miss him. He was in Australia. He was Australian born and bred, and lived all his life in Australia. He was a clever journalist.
Well, I'm sorry to hear of your brother's passing, but I can't...
So am I, actually. We hadn't been close. He lives in Australia, and we hadn't been close for a good many years, but we were very close over a distance of 30,000 miles or however many it is.
But we can't end the interview on a negative note. Let's finish...
Why not?
And bookends with a bit of positivity.
No.
So are you happy with the career that you've had when we look back?
It's been more fun than working.
Well, George Roubicek, thank you very much.
You're welcome.